Club Municipal Utility District Number 1. The Board of Directors meeting is now in session. The time is 6 o'clock. We convene into our regular meeting. We do have a quorum. And I don't have one, Miguel.
It's behind.
Sorry, it's back here. Okay. The directors' meeting is called to order. We do have a quorum. The time is now 6:02. We are going to immediately go into a closed session. The board will conduct a closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code anointed Chapter 551's Chubbs Chapter D for the following. Section 551.0712, consultation with attorney. Consultation with attorney on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflict with the Open Meetings Act, and to seek advice of counsel on legal matters involving pending or contemplated litigation, settlement offers, or legal matters not directly related to litigation or settlement. Pending litigation in cause number 14-03540-158 in the District Court of Denton County relating to access to the 3.996 acres of land purchased by the district from BDMR Development, LLC in January 2013. We will now convene onto our closed session. Everybody please excuse us in the audience.
We got this at the last meeting.
Regular session. We will.
Time.
The time is 6:45. We will now have citizens' presentations. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the board on any matter, whether or not it is posted on the agenda. The board is not permitted to take action on or discuss any presentations made to the board at this time concerning an item not listed on the agenda. The board will hear presentations on specific agenda items prior to the board addressing these items. You may speak up to 3 minutes, or the time limit determined by the president or presiding officer. To speak during this item, you must complete the speaker's form that indicates the topics of your statement. Topics of presentation should be limited to matters over which the board has authority. We have one person wishing to address us. Mr. Bill Rose, would you come up and state your name and address, please?
Somewhere up here,
Is the screen not working?
says it's ready to use.
Jennifer, is that screen not working?
This one down here.
I don't know why it's not on. It does work, yes.
Can you ask me?
Thanks, Miguel.
Is it an Adobe file or a PowerPoint you're looking for?
It's PowerPoint. Actually, I have both up there. This'll work. amazing. Isn't
You've almost lost
technology
a minute,
great?
Bill, so talk fast.
Oh, you already started the timer?
No.
No.
Oh, right now.
Okay, Bill Rose, 219 Inverness. At the May 20th meeting, I raised the issue of determining sewer charges in a fair and equitable manner. In the months of June, July, August, and September, I presented facts surrounding winter average rates during each month's 3-minute public comment portion of your meeting. Since the original presentation, this is the 5th time in as many months that winter average rates have been brought to your attention. It must be noted that the issue is yet to be placed on the agenda for discussion and action. In your purpose statement found in Article 5 of your Code of Conduct, you state, "The citizens and the businesses that Trophy Club Municipal Utility District Number 1 serves are entitled to have a fair, ethical, and accountable district, which earns the public's full confidence for integrity." Remembering that statement, let's turn our attention to this slide, which illustrates the volume of sewage processed versus the volume of sewage your customers are charged for processing. The information on this slide was taken from responses to open records requests and should not be a surprise to either the staff or the directors. The green area shows raw sewage inflow at the wastewater treatment plant and was taken from the plant's monthly log sheets. The red area shows the amount of sewage billed and was extracted from monthly billing records. Beyond the obvious disconnect between what is processed and what is billed, there are a few interesting points that can be taken from this slide. The amount of sewage processed across a year's time frame is fairly stable. Not constant, but fairly stable. That fact undercuts any thought that the monthly amount of sewage processed parallels the monthly amount of water sold, and it also undercuts the idea that the sewer charge needs to be adjusted monthly. The area in red is effectively an additional charge paid by those MUD 1 customers who have lawns. Under the MUD's effective 3-class system, those customers having lawns subsidize sewer costs for commercial and apartment dwellers who remain in the green area. Now, tying this slide to the fair, ethical, and accountable in your code of conduct, when it comes to sewer costs, fair, ethical, and accountable are non-existent. In my previous presentations, I have named cities that use winter average rates. I started with cities in the local area, moved to Texas, and then to the nation. While doing research last night, I discovered a significant omission in the local area. My apologies go to the town manager and council of Westlake, who clearly recognize and appreciate a fair and equitable system for sewer charges in a previously instituted winter average rates in Westlake. I'll see you next month. Thank you.
Good.
Bill, before you leave, may I ask a question? You realize that if you say to come up with a winter average rate of 12,000, just to throw a number, so the 18 is eliminated. The wastewater is designed to produce X amount of number, and I think it's like $2,270,000. If you took, that's the wastewater revenue number, budget, okay. You realize that right now where people are paying about $2.50 per 1,000 gallons, and that if you came up with a winter average rate of 12 or 8 or 6, whatever you wanted to come up with, you'd have to raise their wastewater rates up. For example, if you dropped it to 12, be just short of $3 per 1,000. So for somebody who is watering in a conservative manner during the summer, or maybe not watering at all, you have effectively raised their water bill. That would be about 17.5%. Their wastewater bill.
Although this is not a time for debate, I think that's a question of clarification.
Okay, so are you advocating by going to winter water rates, which would effectively increase your wastewater rate per 1,000?
In order to go to winter average rates, the amount of charge per 1,000 gallons would need to be adjusted.
But it would
And
go
now
up. That's what I'm telling you.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, well, and let's not get into a debate, but I think you were asking for clarification, and Mr. Rose answered, I think he answered your clarification question.
I just want to know, if you drop if you go to winter rates, do you admit that the water rate for wastewater would go up?
I think we're wandering into discussion on the issue, and
I
I
was just
believe
asking
that
for
the
clarification.
I believe I believe the board's limited to discussing whether they'd like to place it on
I
an
think you,
agenda or
I
not.
think you answered his question of clarification. so.
Okay.
Okay. We will now move on to the consent agenda. All matters listed as consent agenda are considered to be routine by the Board of Directors and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be a separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Consider and take appropriate action to approve the consent agenda. September check register. September 16, 2014 regular meeting minutes. Quarterly investment report, fourth quarter fiscal year 2014.
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion to, and a second to approve the consent agenda. All of those in favor? It is unanimous. Next item, item 3, consider and take appropriate action to approve third amendment to lease agreement with New Singular Wireless PCS LLC, AT&T, for continued use of elevated storage tank on T.W. King for addition of new antennas on tank site and authorize the general manager to execute the necessary documents. Discussion or a motion?
Question,
Yes, sir.
and maybe it comes after the motion. Jennifer, I read it through that, I thought fairly carefully. I couldn't find an amount that's gonna be paid for the antennas.
Okay,
Isn't there a monthly fee for them to do this?
yes, in the contract, this third amendment, I did not tell them that we would increase the amount. What is it right now? About $910. Right. And the purpose, they agreed to remove not only the antennas that are theirs, that are no longer in use, but the antennas that belong to another wireless company that went bankrupt. And that would cost us somewhere in the $50,000 to $60,000 range to have to remove those antennas and repair the tank, and they've agreed to do that for us. Additionally, there is a small concrete building that they placed out there. The other AT&T, it was yes, and it was another building that they have two out there, and they agreed to convey that building over to
Is
us.
that the one by the elevated tank?
Yes,
So basically, you're saying the price would remain in the 900 range?
that's right.
Okay.
Then I make a motion that we approve the third amendment to the lease agreement with AT&T.
I would second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? If there's not, all of those in favor, it is unanimous. Consider and take appropriate action to approve a contract with SC Tracking Solutions, LLC, for management of backflow prevention program for the annual cost of $595. To approve the firm to perform a one-time district-wide backflow inventory at a cost of $3,950, and to authorize a general manager to execute the necessary documents.
Give you a little explanation of this. We have, since the water superintendent left, we have been really looking into the backflow program, and there are quite a few problems with it. And a lot of commercial businesses that we know have backflows are not included in our program. And so we've got to get someone to go out and do inspections at each one of those so that we can get them on the annual testing. Additionally, there's a lot that we have in the program that they have not been submitting their annual testing. And this is both for the pit, that this $595 is a set amount in the life of the contract. Is whenever we renew it, it will never be any more than $595. And this firm will actually track they'll set up a software that we can go online and have access to, but they will track all of the backflow devices in town. They will send them a first, a second, and a third notice to get the inspection done. If at that point they have not done their inspection, they'll turn that over to us to get some sort of enforcement against them. But it's a really good program. They have been approved by TCQ. They do several little small cities in our area. They do South Lake, Little Elm, several other small cities and districts around in this area. So I highly recommend that we move to this. Kind of takes one more thing off of our plate, and so that the guys can focus more on the water system.
Director Thomas.
Jennifer, just a quick question. When I read this, the 3950 didn't say exactly what it covered. If I hear you, you're saying they would do an inventory of commercial backflows, not residential?
That's correct. Only residential, we don't have any requirements that any of them be tested annually, unless they have some sort of health issue, or for example, if they have an irrigation system that shoots chemicals into their irrigation system, that's a health hazard, and they would have to test it annually. But we do not have any of those.
So this amount, though, is just for the commercial backflows?
Yes,
in our district?
The only residential that would be included are those that have fire lines and have the RPZs on their fire lines. Those have to be tested annually too, but they'll actually go out and look at all the commercial, all the residential that have fire lines, and get us a real good inventory together and set up in a program.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this contract as stipulated.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Director Toomey seconds the motion. We have a motion and a second. All of those in favor? It is unanimous.
Can we drop that from this display? Pull it. Is Mr. Rose still here? Can you pull your,
Color.
If you got a button to shut off your,
I'll do it.
item 5, consider and take appropriate action regarding the September 2014 financials. Questions?
I reviewed it, talked to Renee today about some questions, and she answered everything I had questions about. So I make a motion that we approve the combined financials, the variance report, and the cash status report.
I'd second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I have a comment. In this cash status report, is it possible to give us a number, a percentage of cash reserves? Because the way it is now, you have to kind of go in there and pick out which ones might be designated cash reserves. I'd like to see us include that in the report.
Jim, you mean like if you take Bank of the West, that 1,504,000, what percent is that of the total?
What I'm really after is the board has, at prior times, has designated 35% of annual incurred costs as cash reserves. I would like to see some way to designate which one of these sub-accounts makes up the cash reserve.
Jim, I think there's a footnote. I mean, currently we have 2.7 million and change, which is 32%. At the very bottom in yellow?
I think, are you asking by the accounts? Is that what you'd like to see, where we're designating what account that reserve is in?
Right.
We can do that.
Okay.
Okay, any other further discussion? If not, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
It is unanimous. Item 6, consider and take appropriate action to approve order number 2014-1021, adopting board agenda policy. Comments?
In your packet, I just want to kind of point out, I took the original policy that we presented a couple of months ago, and I also included Director Thomas and Director Toomey had each made some revisions. So I placed both of those in there just for you all to be able to look at how each person would like to see that, the original draft changed. And my suggestion would be you all could kind of give us some direction tonight on what you want the final policy to look like, and we can bring that back to you next month.
If y'all recall, y'all asked Neil and I to take the spearhead on doing this. And so both of us have given inputs back, and Jennifer's got the original, she's got my comments, she's got Neil's comments in color. And you can kind of see what we were thinking.
So you just want us to get together and work it out, or you want to just have a general discussion here?
What's the main difference between your two?
Well, I think Jim was suggesting 3 business days instead of, I think, 7, right?
Right.
And I thought 4, basically you're talking Tuesday, because you have to publish normally on Friday afternoon. It's just to give the staff more time if a director comes in with something. I just thought 4 days was more manageable than, a full week. There really isn't going to be much difference because you're talking about business days. And where the policy said 7, Jim Thomas recommended, I got to go with which Jim I'm talking about. Jim Thomas recommended 3. I thought 4 would be appropriate. If it's a real serious, the only thing I remember coming up is if it really impacted on staff time to have something on the agenda, to have it ready to discuss. And I think any director would be reasonable. If it was too much to do in a short period of time, we'd just push it to the next meeting. But I thought 4 was, and then the second item had to do with joint meetings. And honestly, since the joint meetings are scheduled every quarter, we have more than enough time that as a board, we should just say what we're going to talk about. Because if we're having a joint meeting and there's 1 hour, you're going to talk about one thing, maybe 1 1/4, but you're not going to talk about 7 things. And we need to be realistic. If we're having a joint meeting where we have 3 or 4 hours, that's one thing. But if we're having a joint meeting, we really need to cull it down to 1 or 2 items, because there's never going to have time.
Do you have any idea at the next joint meeting, the time that's going to be spent at the joint meeting?
No, I don't know yet. I'm supposed to meet with the town manager tomorrow, and I can ask that
I'm
question.
very much against this 1 hour every 3 months. We just cannot get the things done we need to. If that's the way we decide to do it, okay, but I do not think it's the best way we should go.
Jim Thomas, do you have any, anything against Neil's changes to 4 days?
No, not at all. I mean, the 3 was just a suggestion, and I think Neil,
Staff, do you-
I didn't have a problem at all with this.
Staff acceptable
Yeah,
with the 4
the-
days?
There was another piece of this though, Kevin, and that was, as far as the joint meetings go, the way this thing was written originally was, in order for a subject to be placed in joint meeting, we had to discuss it in a previous board meeting. Well, the joint meeting might not be for another 30 days. And so I felt like that was hamstringing us a little too much, and that we ought to have the same, whatever date we pick, 3 days, 4 days, whatever, that when we need to give Jennifer ample time to coordinate with Mike so that the agenda can be set, but to try to do it 30 days in advance was unrealistic to me. It just put a hamstring on us. Things happen around here too fast. Something can crop up that we want to talk about that we didn't even know existed 10 days ago.
But, I think we can be rational about, if an emergency came up, we could deal with it in a reasonable way. All I'm saying is, if we're having quarterly meetings, we had September and we have this meeting. If we were meeting next Tuesday, as we were supposed to be, we'd have plenty of time at this meeting to say, okay, this is the agenda we agreed to.
Yeah, I just didn't, Neil, didn't feel like it should be, that's the only way you could bring an item forward for a joint meeting, because
But
if it was 30 days later.
But I'm looking at a joint meeting. We, the board, have something we wanted to discuss with the town council. It's not I, the director, want to bring up an issue.
Right.
I think it should be more, these are areas of concern or items of discussion that the entire board says, this is what we want to do.
I see your point. I understand.
Okay.
Right.
I'd like to make a
That's a very good
motion.
point.
Excuse me, you finished, Jim?
Director Hayes?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that Jim Thomas and Neil work this out and come back next month with a single recommendation.
Okay. Anyone
Okay.
disagree with that?
I'll second it, even though I have to.
Okay. All right,
Thanks,
Well, I was-
thank you, great delegator.
Well, in all fairness, based upon what Neil just said, which I think has absolute merit, you know, the whole board should be, you know, on board with anything we talk about in the deal, that, you know, the suggestion that he had kind of pans it out.
So you agreed to the changes,
Mhm.
and, okay, so why don't we just approve?
I think based on what
Have
Neil
any-
put forward, we can go ahead.
Do you want to retract your motion?
Yes.
I make a motion that we approve the revisions of order number 2014-1021 as outlined in Neil Toomey's revisions, Director Neil Toomey.
I'll second.
we have a motion and a second. We'll call for the vote. All those in favor? It is unanimous.
That's how you get something done.
Thank you.
That way, keep her moving. Okay. Item 7, consider and take appropriate action to approve engineering proposal from the Wallace Group for engineering services related to relocation of a force main at lift station number 2 and allowing the general manager to execute the necessary documents. Jennifer?
This is a budgeted capital improvement item that we have for this fiscal year. This is the lift station that's over there off T.W. King. We've had several complaints from residents. Years ago, the sewer line was in the bottom of or below the surface of the creek, but over the years, erosion has caused it to to come up. And additionally, old concrete was poured over the sewer line, and now it's exposed in some areas. So we need to get that sewer line back down underneath the creek. The concrete, the way that it has eroded around it, has caused the creek to stop draining very, very well. And this project will help the drainage there. They'll put riprap in, and basically it will just the sewer main will be in the same location but lowered.
Okay.
And it's for,
This is just for the design of the project, and then once we bid it, we'll bring the bids back forward to the board.
and this is for 10,620?
Mhm.
Can I make a motion to approve the engineering proposal not to exceed 10,620 from the Wallace Group for engineering services related to relocation of a force main at lift station 2?
Well, second, but I have a question.
Okay. We have a motion and a second discussion.
Jennifer, we did the same thing quite a number of years ago. Back in those days, I was on the MUD 3 board, and we had the same problem. It eroded down. Have they not? There's no way. You know, there's a bank on the way those lots are laid out. There's a bank on one side of that creek that it really is. I mean, so far back in the lot lines that there's no way to reroute that pipe. The pipe's got to stay in the middle of the creek, even though you're going to put it deeper.
Well, they will look at that, but initially, didn't he look at that? And he said that really that wouldn't work very well, right?
Is it because of the angles and the connections of everything?
It would change the flow. Yeah,
Hydraulics.
it would just change the hydraulics to the lift station, so
Do you know
it
how
doesn't
far-
look like it would be very. It's always possible, but it would be very costly to do that.
How much further down are they talking about putting it?
I don't know yet. Do you?
I mean, you know, the riprap will certainly help, but unless you riprap the whole creek bed, it erodes. You know, a perfect example is behind my house. The two properties around me have done it, and one property hasn't. And there's a well where it hasn't been done. And that's what happens is the water comes through, it hits that stuff, and it eats it away.
Right.
And so I would really ask that as you go into this, that you make sure that this thing is going down more than just a few inches, or it's not going to, we're going to have this problem again in a few years.
And that's the purpose of the engineering.
And it definitely is going to go down further than just a few inches. I do know that, but how
Hopefully
deep?
4 or 5
Yeah, I
feet.
don't know. Right.
Yeah. If the flow will allow it, hopefully several feet. Again, I just want to bring that up. This is the second time we've had to fix this thing, and I'd like to be it the last time.
Me too.
Do we have a motion and a second?
Yes.
Okay, I'm behind you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
It is unanimous. Item 8, consider and take appropriate action to appoint board committee to discuss division of information technology assets shared with the Town of Trophy Club prior to the joint meeting with the Town of Trophy Club Town Council. We need a couple of volunteers or appointees. Neil?
I'll volunteer.
I'll volunteer.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, let Kevin and Neil do it if they want to.
Okay, Neil, Kevin, does anybody object to that? Okay. We'll appoint Neil and Kevin to that committee.
You don't need a motion to do that, do you, Jim?
I don't think so. Pam,
Pam,
we don't need a motion
can he
to
just-
appoint a
Didn't have
committee.
any objections, it's fine, you can move forward with, Neil and Kevin.
Okay, no objections, then we don't have to take a vote. Item 9, consider and take appropriate action to approve lease purchase of a 105-foot ladder truck for fire department. A, approve bid from Siddons Martin Emergency Group in the amount of $1,096,608.45. B, approve lease purchase agreement with Oshkosh Capital for a 7-year term at 2.5% interest. C, approve down payment of $250,000 payable to Oshkosh Capital. Item D, approve resolution number 2014-1021, authorizing the general manager to execute necessary documents and contracts for order of a ladder truck from Siddons Martin and financing by lease purchase agreement with Oshkosh Capital.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second?
Motion, do we have a second?
Second with a question.
A motion, second with a question. Director Thomas.
Danny, I'd like to share with you and Jennifer, I mean, I've seen a lot of proposals, but this one was first class. I mean, when I went through this thing, I mean, y'all obviously spent a lot of time on this. And I think the information was extremely detailed, and I really appreciate it. The only question I had was, you've recommended the 7-year lease, and I was just curious why you chose that versus the 5 or 10-year. And I was looking at the amount of interest paid. It's not a huge difference. Round numbers, 5 years, $154,000, 7 years, $207,000, 10 years, $295,000. What was it that drove you to the recommendation on a 7-year lease?
I think that's going to be a Neil question. Neil kind of head up our finance
And
group
Neil,
along with
forgive me, Neil
Jennifer.
was very much a part of this, and he needs to be thanked also.
I'd like to address the committee first as far as who was on our committee. We had 4 of our driver engineers through the department. We had 2 residents it was 2 residents at the time of the committee, which was Matthew Bouchier, which is a Fort Worth fireman, and also Mr. Toomey. Mr. Toomey and myself and Jennifer was on the finance part of the thing, and the rest of the guys were the specifications. So carry on.
Okay, simply put, when we were having our discussion at the committee, first of all, the interest rates were gonna be higher for 10 years. And at that time, I think we were talking about 3.2 or 3.3 for a 7-year. And until they actually negotiated with Oshkosh Capital, that's when it came down to 2.5. And if you remember, we budgeted about $254,000 in the budget for this. And this was basically $1,250,000 at 4%.
And you're gonna come under that.
So we came tremendously under, and 7 years is a pretty much an appropriate thing. It keeps the payment low enough that it's not a major impact on the fire budget, and we can, and we can deal with it. And roughly, it's about 1.5 what we were paying on the fire truck. That we just, in September, we finished the last payment on the current fire truck. So considering that this is $1 million, which is more than we paid for the old fire truck that's, that we bought 7 years ago, it just seemed in line. And the 2.5%, I mean, rates will rise sometime.
Yep.
And this is a good financing deal for us.
And Neil, look, I want to apologize to you. You were instrumental in this piece of work, and I did not mean to leave you out of my thanks.
No.
And one last thing I'd just like to ask is, I understand that the price of this particular machine is not a whole lot of difference between new and used, and therefore we're going to go with the new one. Is that correct?
No.
No, Danny?
I wouldn't have said it that way. I mean, we were looking at the bids for new ones they were pretty comparable, but it's the amount of material and stuff that they, namely, how much follow-up questions we would have, and, I called
Longevity
it,
of your investment and.
yeah. And also the servicing that's available, namely, if something had to be fixed, it's very close by. And so it just made a lot more sense to go with this bid. Plus, we think by going to this bidding process, we actually we were forecasting $1,250,000, and by the fact that they had to compete for it, that really dropped the
Drove it
price down.
For those of you that didn't get it, these guys did, but for those of you out there that didn't get to see the specs on this thing, this is a first-class product. It is an outstanding truck. Danny, I was particularly impressed. The 105-foot ladder is the same thing pretty much that Southlake and Grapevine run with, and nobody else in this area has got anything that can handle that.
Roanoke fixed to put one on the streets also, so we're gonna be very comfortable in this part of the, country as far as the ladder trucks.
Well, and you need that. When you think about the fact that under mutual aid, all of these homes that are going up, high roof structures on every one of them, you've got the 4-story buildings across the street that we have to support. Who knows what's gonna go in PD 30? And this was a nice piece of work. You guys did a good job.
Director Carr, you have a question?
I just want to echo what Director Thomas said. Appreciate Donnie, Sean, Dustin, Matthew, Greg, Jennifer, Danny, yourself, and Neil. Exceptional report. I had a couple of questions. What's the delivery time on this?
Probably 7 to 9 months.
Okay. And then we're going with the life cycle of, what, 15?
17 to 20 on the.
17 to 20 now? Okay, and then what is the market price or average on the ladder truck we have now as far as the resale?
I have a resident expert in the audience. The salesperson for Sid Martin is in the audience, Russ Mabry. If you'd like to direct that answer to question to
I don't
him,
care. Anyone in the audience.
Russ.
I don't know that I could answer that.
Come up to the.
I mean, yeah,
We're not gonna hold you to it.
yeah, a ballpark.
Make a
a
guess.
dollar, 20,000.
At the most, we're looking at probably about 40,000 to 45,000
Okay.
on what the market's averaging right now for that type of truck and the age.
Okay.
The problem that we're gonna run into is that, the ladder is no longer manufactured, the company went bankrupt and is no longer in business, and that the age of the truck and the chassis is the
I mean-
parts available. So we may see a decline, so.
I mean,
We'll put it high and see where we get.
the
And
reason I ask, I
we're
mean,
still using the same people that sold our old engine. We got 52,000 out of it, and it was 18 years old also.
That's
So
exactly
these
it.
same people are going to sell the ladder too. And he's in. Russ is the one that recommended that we go through this process, not go back to the manufacturer just as a trade-in because of the value of the open market. So
Yeah, the reason I asked that was that very reason is, I mean, we were dancing in the streets when we got what we got for the other piece of equipment.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? If not, we'll call for the vote. All of those in favor? It is unanimous.
I want to add one more thing too, is it was really a lot of fun actually putting this together. I learned a lot more about fire trucks than I thought than I ever did want to know. But the guys did a great job, and so did Danny, and I appreciate all of y'all's help with this.
Jennifer put the little book together, so she did. Her and Kari they did the feet work on the.
We just kind of made it look pretty.
We did.
Come with a Dalmatian, though.
That
Yeah,
was
yeah,
my
yeah.
question.
Danny, I say it one more time. Been here a long time. This is one of the best put-together proposals I've ever seen.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, guys. We'll move on to the reports and updates. The general manager's report. Jennifer?
Well, I really don't have anything on the water or wastewater reports. I'll just kind of leave that open to questions. But let me skip on down to a couple of things that I do want to cover with you. Fuel cards, we have now completely converted over to fuel cards. And unless someone tells me tonight, I've personally run into absolutely no problems whatsoever with it. It's working out real well. So we're good to go with that. Do you all know where the town is? Have they switched over yet, Danny?
We've started the process switching over on the fire trucks and stuff. I think I don't know if they've purchased anything yet, but we're still using the fuel that's in the tank. So
No, but I mean on the town, on their fleet cards,
I'm
have they
sorry.
had them issued yet?
I haven't seen the cars.
Yeah,
from
got
town
it,
yet,
okay.
no.
So, but they assured me they'll be through this process by the end of the month. So I'll check with Mike tomorrow. The MUD has always done the ordering of the fuel, and of course we don't want them to run out of fuel. So we'll check and see where they're at. But they should be getting along with that and about to the point of switching over to the cards as well. Did you have a question?
Yeah, wasn't there a concern about the quality of the diesel with the problems we've had with the ambulances and stuff?
I think that's one of the issues we had on this last batch of diesel we got. We had sent two medics to the shop for 2 or 3 days at a time because of bad fuel. So
are we using it still, or?
right now, we have been using the new fuel that's been put in the tank. We haven't had an issue since. So
Okay.
I think we just got a bad batch of fuel.
Okay.
I want to skip down to the bad news. We did receive a letter from Fort Worth. This is the first time, I guess, I don't know if it's in history or just many years, but it's certainly the first time since I've been here, that instead of ending up at the end of the year with a little bit of a credit on the Fort Worth water, there's actually a settle-up charge this year. And hold on, let me get to that.
$45,000.
Yeah, I was going to say about $45,000. They did send us a letter telling us that we'll be receiving that bill very soon. So, that was kind of an unexpected charge that we're having with Fort Worth this year, but we do have the funds. So, but I did want to bring y'all up to speed on that.
How does the settle up work?
If they receive any type, they actually have to settle up with Trinity River Authority, where they purchase the water, the raw water for treatment. And in the past, they've had ended with a credit, but this year their charges with the raw water actually exceeded what they had paid in, and so that's split amongst all the wholesale customers. So it was actually the cost of raw water increased dramatically.
So it's not anything we have any control over.
No. Also, just quickly, I put in with your packet kind of an estimated project timeline for capital projects through 2015. I'll bring that back to you again next month, because actually just today I got an update from Fort Worth on the water line from Kaler Tank. They're about to take that out to bid. They are behind on that project. They should have already had it bid, but they're taking it out to bid this month. And so I'll be able to update that project timeline, and I'll bring that back to you next month. The vacant water superintendent position, we have received several very good applications, and we will be doing interviews for that position at the end of this month on October 31st. I want to kind of throw something out there, a little bit of a brag. I want to say that right now, Mike McMahon has kind of stepped into this position. Carl's definitely helping him kind of guide him through his way, but I can tell you that he is doing a tremendous job. I've seen a complete turnaround in the water staff. Seems to be very motivated, very excited about all the projects and things that Mike has assigned to him. So I think we're doing really well there, but I wanted to kind of bring you up to speed that next month when we come to our meeting, we'll probably have a new person sitting here, so
Is he
you
one
can
of
be
your
ready for
applicants, by
that.
any chance?
How about, yeah,
Is he one of your applicants?
Mike interested?
Yes,
in,
Mike did apply for the position, and he is being interviewed. We had actually 4 individuals that applied, all with a minimum of a double B license. I think at least one of them had a double A license, and most have had some sort of supervisory management position, and they have all had at least a minimum of 10 years in water and wastewater. So we have some really good applicants. So that's all I have, unless you all have any questions for me.
Are there any other questions for Jennifer?
Yeah, just a quick one. Jennifer, have you interviewed any of them yet?
No, we have them all set up on October 31st.
Just curious as to what was driving them to our job opening.
This board,
Yeah,
obviously.
The manager, I don't know.
Item 11, the fire department reports, Danny.
Well, wait a minute, hang on a second. We're not, Jennifer's got some other stuff she skipped over. Analytics on the website,
Well, do you have any questions about that?
just a quick one.
Okay.
On the two pie charts, I'm trying, forgive me, I'm sorry, I just can't figure out the difference between them. We've got returning visitors of, on one of the charts of 53% and new visitors of 47%. Then when you go down to the next chart, it's drastically less. It's like, get it big enough I can read it. 32% versus 67%. What's the difference between these two sets of charts? It looks a lot like the same information to me.
I think one of them is for the fire department website and one is for the water, is that correct?
Okay.
Right.
If that's the case, could I just request that you label it that way next time? Because it was really difficult to try to figure out what was what.
It's actually labeled to the right.
Oh, do you see it? Where? Where am I missing it?
The first one at the top right corner, it shows TC Mud,
In the little teeny print.
and it is very
Okay.
tiny print.
Got it, got it.
And
got it,
then
got it.
the fire department one is labeled for Trophy Club FD.
Yep.
Well, Danny, you getting a lot of returning visitors coming back to see you again.
Yeah, he's beating us on returning visitors,
Boy,
but
are
we're
you
getting a
ever.
lot more new people.
Just one couple follow-up
Further
question. Where are you with buying the fuel trailer, if you want to call it, for,
I've ordered a fuel trailer.
okay. And the second question is, if in an event of some type of emergency, have you thought about how we might have some type of contract where we get some type of guaranteed delivery of diesel or fuel?
Yes, and I will bring to y'all next month an emergency procedure. I have started drafting that, but I haven't completed it. But Lori did check with the current vendor that we use and also with Suncoast, and both of them have emergency delivery procedures. So we will get some sort of a contract set up. We have a contract with Ricochet right now, but we will get something set up, and that will be in the procedure that I'll bring back next month.
And when do you anticipate getting the final letter for 2013-14 from Fort Worth Water, including the peaking charge? Has that come out yet?
It has not come out yet. It'll we don't usually get it till like the end of November, do we?
They said it'd be out by the end of the month.
Okay, so the end of this month.
And the last thing is simply because someone brought up bad diesel fuel. With the generator down at the wastewater plant, has anybody given any thought of checking that fuel to make sure we don't have, some type of spoiled fuel? The last thing we need is if we had a power outage, has it been checked?
Yes.
Okay, good.
We don't currently have a contract, but we're gonna get a new one negotiated. But we did, was that 2 years ago that we got a contract with Intech, and that was part of what they did on an annual basis as they came out, or maybe it was semi-annual. Semi-annual, they came out and they actually tested the diesel. That was something that had not been being done prior to that, so we want to keep that going. But they actually come out and do a test, and if there is a problem with it, they add some kind of cleaner additive to it.
The last thing is, if in the event of emergency, the counties have their own emergency teams that start up. We have to make sure we're on a list for emergency fuel if there was ever a major incident up here. I mean, this is more on a hurricane basis. We have to worry more probably regarding tornadoes. But just, it would be, since we're in both counties, Tarrant County and Denton County, it wouldn't hurt to try to get on both lists. And that
Sure.
way, because one of the problems has been in the past, if you're not on the approved county list, you can't get emergency deliveries in a disaster situation. So it'd be probably just, that's not, when you have the time, maybe just to check on that, okay?
Someday I'll give you a real story about what happens with those when you're in hurricanes, okay?
Yeah, when the diesel fuel runs out, I know.
And
I'm all done.
we'll go there another day.
Director Carr, you had a question.
I have 3 questions. Two of them are regarding utility bill. Noticed that the late notices went down by like 120 or something like that, but the disconnects went up by like +9. Is there anything to that, or it's just kind of odd? The last question was, is everyone set up on the email now?
Yes, thank you, Kevin. I did want to say, Neil is not, but Jim Thomas came in today and we got him fixed up. And I actually tried to call you a couple of times today, but I'm going to get with Neil and arrange a time for him to come up and we're going to get this fixed. But they did get Jim Thomas's. It was an issue with the AOL and took him, about 5 minutes to get you all fixed up. They're really, really good and very few glitches. We've had a few little changes, some things that are done differently now, but as far as the email conversion, just absolutely the smoothest conversion of something I've ever seen. So hopefully it'll continue as we move to the whole new infrastructure as well.
And then our new employee, the girl at the front desk, she's doing billing too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, she's a customer service rep as well.
Okay.
Just for short term, Jennifer, we may not know this, and Greg, maybe you have some idea. Is the town still running at its current build rate? Roughly 155 homes a year in the PID. And the only reason I ask the question is as of today, there's only 128 left. And number one, I think that's outstanding for the growth for the town that's going on back there. And number two, just for planning purposes, you're looking at $294,000 if they build those homes in a year. And so.
Yeah, I asked Renee about that. Permits dropped off pretty significantly.
It's really slowing down.
Well, you know what, you kind of expect in a development like that, the last homes go slower just because it may not be as desirable lots or, But the other piece of this, that was a short-term view. The long-term view is these homes won't make it by December 31st, so it won't be in next year's evaluation, but the year after.
We were doing what, like 13, 14 a month, and we did like 4. Yeah, that's it. So
And
Greg will buy the rest of the lots, so.
And again, the other piece, I haven't done a physical count. I just wasn't thinking about it when I drove down there the other day, but there's about 10 or 12, 13 homes fairly underway in Canterbury Hills. And so those may, in fact, go online by December 31st and be part of the tax rolls for both the town and the MUD next year.
Okay, any other questions for the general manager? If not, Danny, fire report.
I have the floor. Mr. Pretz, you have the report in front of you. This is our year-end report, finishing in September being our last month. We did finish out the year 38 runs, less than last year, so that's good for the community. We had 907 total for the year, total fire and EMS. The district stayed pretty much the same. We're still running a 21 for District 1 and about 30, almost 40 in the District 2, so those are our two busiest. We are starting to pick up in the PID, so good report for the year.
Danny, I tell you, I was a little surprised out of your total calls, how many of them were hospital transports. That was a large number.
We do a lot of transports.
Is that because this is a large instance of retirements in here, you think?
I don't know, should I
Or did we
answer
just
that or
get
not?
sick a lot?
Actually,
It's
my
not on your
dad,
end of the town. How about that?
Well, 25% of your runs are
Yeah.
hospital transports.
yeah, my dad was one of them, and
Yeah.
I just want to thank you.
And how's he doing?
He's doing good.
Okay, good.
Yeah. But I had a question. It's more of something to look into. When they had the car show, I think it was Good Guys at the Motor Speedway. And it's in other events too. A lot of people, are guests of the Hampton Inn, which is good. But they come with U-Hauls, they come with trailers, and they park on either side of the street. Can we possibly do a fire lane on one side? So there's no way, I have a Suburban and I couldn't even get by because they had 2 trailers. I had to back up and go around. If you guys have to respond to something, emergency or fire, there's a big concern there.
We'll look into that, and I did have a call on that too, and I did go and look at it, but They were in the next and out the next day, so.
Yeah.
So I did address that with the general manager over there about his parking lot, and then I'll talk to the town about their, striping that one side is no parking. We'll have to sign it, so it depends on the development on that street as far as it goes back to the new hotel that's gonna come in, so several steps, but yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's usually the car trailers or the trucks that, the parking lot, they need like 2 or 3 places, so.
Yes.
Danny, have you finished yet, or are you still doing your presentations to the schools?
I think we did the last one to the elementaries this morning, or
Okay.
today. I think we've got a couple more daycares to do.
How many total did you do?
I think we're pushing right at 1,000. I think it was 987 kids total.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, that's,
and a lot of that is donations, not donations, but buy-in from the community, our businesses and stuff. They buy in through the National Fire Council. So they kind of pay a little fee per kid, and then the Fire Council buys the packets for us, and we just pick up the difference in account. So
What's the rough age of the kids?
kindergarten through 3rd grade.
Might have some future firefighters in there.
And there you go.
I have one. Are you done, Jim?
Yeah.
Okay, I had one more question. I remember seeing something on social network about a call for donations on Gatorade and water.
Yes.
Is that for our firefighters, or, because, you have that in the budget, at least?
Right,
that's
right,
all.
we do. Jennifer and I have talked about this. We have money in our budget and in my miscellaneous funds for rehab, water and Gatorade and stuff like that. The Emergency Services Group put this email out because they were doing an exercise at the college for all the NEFTA cities. The 14 cities were going over there and training for almost a month. So all the rehab teams for each of the cities were getting together and and going over there and rehabbing all these different companies during this exercise. So that's what that push was for. Every time we have a big event or have a fire or something like that, or a disaster, that's the way the community buys in there. We're always getting Gatorade and water every time we have something like that, whether we ask for it or not.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted you to say, because some people took it like, oh, aren't you buying things? And I
Right,
said, no,
right.
it's budgeted. And
No, it's their
whatever Danny
buy-in.
puts in there.
That's the way the community buys into the
Okay.
service, so.
there was some criticism over
Yeah,
there.
I provided Danny, we have a employee that goes to Costco every 2 weeks, and we pick up things there. I've also extended to him the information if he wants to have Ozarka deliver. So the resources are there.
Yeah.
That's,
Okay, any
Hey,
further questions?
Yeah, hey, Danny, you dropped it off of this report for some reason. I remain interested, not that I want to affect mutual aid at all, but I remain very interested in how much goes out versus how much comes in. And I'm still a little bit feeling like we subsidize Roanoke quite a bit. You had 58, see, had 68 calls to them last year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious how many they had back.
Back to us, I don't have a breakdown. Yeah, I do.
There's never been a whole lot.
Mutual aid received to us, Roanoke came to us 14 times, Westlake 15 times, Southlake 4 times, Keller 2, and then other 24. So part of that 24 number is Roanoke again, because that's the multiple jurisdiction response to large fires or whatever, so.
Is it problems on 114 that's driving so many EMS responses to Roanoke? 'Cause your number is way out of skew there. Your ambulances are spending a huge amount of time over there.
It's just medical emergencies across the board. There is a lot of accidents on 114, but it's back and forth as far as mutual aid goes.
Doesn't Roanoke have a contract with another town further west?
They have a contract with MedStar on the Fort Worth side of the equation, and then Argyle and Flower Mound help on the north side and stuff like that, so.
So
Well, I
they
just don't want to mess up your mutual aid agreement.
No,
but-
no,
but-
we
but-
all
but it-
come to the table
But it
and
does seem like
Yeah,
maybe
they're-
they ought to
they're
think about another ambulance over
quite
there.
busy, so.
Can I add one thing to Danny's report? I'm going to lead into something by using Danny's report. Danny went to Ebola training.
Oh, my goodness.
I
gracious.
want to add in that the fire and
spell
the EMS are getting prepared and getting a response together. We actually have, I know Danny had one call, I've had 2 calls from hospitals, although we only have 1 hospital in Trophy Club, 2 were located elsewhere, but they were given my name, about disposal of Ebola waste in through the sanitary sewer. and I want to bring this to you all in case you do get questions. AWWA is actually working on more definitive protocols for that, but right now it is permitted. We are asking that they dump a cup of bleach or some sort of chlorine into the toilet before it's flushed if they treat a Ebola patient, but it only lasts in the water for a matter of minutes by the time it gets to the wastewater plant. I was going to meet with Carl and talk about kind of our next staff meeting, our next safety meeting. I want him to kind of cover these blood-borne pathogens with the staff. They are already very prepared. There are many diseases that you can get in wastewater, and they're aware of that. And I feel that we're very ready for it. But I did want to add that in, that we are preparing for that, both on the wastewater side as well as through the fire and EMS. So.
Okay. Any further questions?
We also had our open house on the 11th of October. With competing with Roanoke Days in baseball and everything, we had a really good turnout. The weather was gorgeous. It was nice and cool, and a lot of kids and a lot of families came through the station, and I think it was a great event. Kudos to Kari. Kari puts together a great party. She put most of this together, and it went well.
Thank you. Other questions?
I have one final comment, and that is, I hope you all noticed your new chairs.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Absolutely. We sure did.
At the same time, we couldn't help but notice those chairs.
Right.
Yeah, those will be gone soon enough. We're hoping next month, the next meeting, they'll be gone and the new ones will be here.
Please.
Greg, you need to break this one in a little bit better, okay?
Okay, if there are no further questions on the fire report, we will now move into a closed session. Pam, you want to read that for us?
Sir.
And the time is 7:45.
The board will conduct a closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code annotated Chapter 551, Subchapter D for the following. Section 551.0712, consultation with attorney. Consultation with attorney on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflict with the Open Meetings Act, and to seek advice of counsel on legal matters involving pending or contemplated litigation, settlement offers, or legal matters not related directly to litigation or settlement. And then it also says section 551.074, but that's personnel, and we don't have anything personnel on here. So the four items are A, pending litigation in cause number D1GN 14001983 in the District Court of Travis County for expedited declaratory judgment relating to issuance of bonds by district to finance wastewater treatment plant improvements. B, waterline relocation, including security and protection of line. C, temporary restraining order and temporary and permanent injunction proceedings in Tarrant County District Court. D, pending or contemplated litigation settlement offers include but are not limited to the following. Town of Westlake.
Thank you, Pam. We will now convene into the closed session.
We have a 5-minute
We will
bathroom.
take a 10-minute break.
Thanks. Maybe one of these years we're
Municipal Utility District Board of Directors will reconvene into our regular session. The time is 9:28.
We forgot to get
Item
water.
13, consider and take appropriate action regarding closed session items. Does anybody have any motions to make?
I'll make a motion. Make a motion to direct our legal counsel to make revisions to terms to be included in the water line relocation agreement, and also direct the staff to report back with the most feasible option for water line relocation.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Wait for Lori a minute. Lori, we had a motion by Neil.
Motion by Kevin, seconded by Neil.
Miguel was on, right?
Seconded by Neil, and he'll give you the wording. You
Miguel was back there, right?
want to redo it again for?
I think he is.
Yeah, I'll say it.
Yes.
Make a motion to direct our legal counsel to make revisions to the terms to be included in the water line relocation agreement, and also direct staff to report back with the most feasible option for water line relocation.
And I second the motion.
Seconded by Director Toomey. Any discussion? If not, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
It is unanimous. If there are no further actions regarding the closed session, item 14,
Hold on.
items for future agenda.
Just saying. I'm Robert Miklos, I'm counsel for McGuire Solana. I just wanted to ask a question. I mean, I didn't want to interfere with the motion. I just wanted to understand, does that mean that between now and the next board meeting that I'll get a copy of the water line relocation agreement, like a draft, like your maybe revisions and then send it to us, or that I'm not going to see one? You're directing your counsel to work on revisions, report back to you, and I won't see one until you may pass it at the next meeting, and then you may or may not issue it. I just have to report back to,
I'll talk to you.
you know.
I'll talk to you after. We're about to be done. I'll talk to you about it.
Well, I appreciate that, but I'm just trying to find out exactly what that meant. And I'm not trying to be smart or
But it-
sarcastic or anything.
I think she said she'll tell you afterwards.
After, we'll be through
I
in a
know,
couple
but I
minutes.
mean, there's her telling me something, and then there's y'all telling me something.
These are my clients. This is my client. So I believe I've answered your question. I'll speak with you after the meeting, and I'll be glad to. But we're not going to do that right now.
Okay, any items for the future agenda? Nope. We have no items for the future agenda. The next meeting date is November 18.
Have we decided on a joint
Did we
meeting?
decide on a joint meeting on the 13th?
Yes, I believe we're going to have that's acceptable with the town to have a joint meeting on November the 13th.
Okay, what about our regular meeting? Is that gonna be,
The 18th?
it will still be the 18th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have items as a board that we want to put on that November meeting?
You mean the?
Joint meeting.
The joint meeting?
Oh, the
Yes,
joint meeting, the 13th.
Yes, Jennifer.
We've said earlier that it should be done as a board, so as a board, do we have items that we want to discuss?
I think that
Very good.
the IT equipment was on there as far as what the town wants to do with the equipment we're not going to use anymore.
Okay, is that the only thing we need to talk about?
I think it's the primary one.
Is there anything else?
I had a list, I didn't bring it, but of items that have been sent to me in the past by both council members and board members. If you would like, I can try to bring those up, but off the top of my head, there was smart meters for the, not smart meters, but smart irrigation systems was something that one of you all had requested. Effluent for watering or irrigating the medians. There was an item about EMS and fire being added together, or I'm sorry, being under one entity. There was a recent one that Nick sent out to discuss infrastructure, how it would work if the town funds infrastructure for a new building for water and wastewater. And there were a few other items. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but are any of those things that you all want me to bring to him tomorrow?
Well, what has Mike given you so far? Has he given you anything?
Well, no, nothing, but our plan was to meet tomorrow to discuss a draft agenda.
Thought you were meeting today.
We're meeting tomorrow.
Okay, so it's changed.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, if there are no further questions, we have the next meeting date set. This board of directors meeting is adjourned at 9:33.